Good day, podcast community. P. Kane here, community coach, podcaster, and author. And we've got a special guest from Waynesboro, North Carolina, my old stomping grounds of Asheville and the surrounding areas of Asheville. So it's beautiful to have somebody in the western North Carolina mountains. So, Christine, thanks for being a guest. Tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
Oh gosh, that's a lot. I could take a whole 5 minutes to do that.
Awesome.
I'm Christine Howatt. I'm recently retired, and actually have retired 3 times in the last 10 years, and that's a whole story for itself. But I'm currently retirement Pocket Cash Club on School Community, where I
Mm-hmm.
help retirees narrow down their focus because a lot of times online we see so many different things, and I've tried about 100 different income opportunities myself. And you get the squirrel brain and the shiny object syndrome, and you
Mm-hmm.
get frustrated and you end up doing nothing. So what I help them do is to pick one path, not that that's in cement
Yep.
for the rest of their lives, but to get them started making some extra money.
Yep.
And we're not looking to make $1 million, but to make, maybe you need $100 extra a month, maybe you need 500, maybe 1,000, but to grow and start with one path. And that's what I'm hopefully helping people do.
That is beautiful. I when I work with clients, I find them doing too many things.
Hmm.
And I say the same thing. One, get one down. You can always do a second, but
Right.
until you do the first, if you're not focused and have clarity, there's so many, like you said, shiny objects.
Hmm.
There's a lot of distractions out there, and we can get distracted very easily.
So
So
easy.
tell our you mentioned 3 times. I love it because I love Michael Jordan's story because he retired and he come out. So when you retired the first time, what was it that got you back to doing something the second time, the first time?
Um, Probably for the past 20 years, I've always been selling online, whether it's eBay, Etsy, Amazon. And the last full time, really full time job I had where I retired the first time, I was working for a municipality and I was going to have a state pension at 55. And things were going kind of weird there. I'd been there over 12 years. I'm like, this is just time. And I thought I would concentrate on my online business. I was going to get into Amazon. But that first year I was retired, I just had fun. I didn't do too much of anything. I was doing everything else, just having a good time, really enjoying my retirement. And then my husband and I had played with the idea of moving out of state for, I don't know, the last 5 years. And
Hmm.
I'm like, if we're going to do this, I need to make some extra money. So then I went back, and I have an accounting background. So I went back and got a job as a part time accountant at a small magnet school in my area, and I was there a couple of years, and then COVID hit and things got weird. We were only working part time. I was working remote, and it wasn't really close to my house either. So I'm just like, after 3 years, I'm like, okay, I'm done with this.
Hmm.
And then we really got serious and we bought some land and we wanted to start building a house. I'm like, I really need some money, and I really had no retirement fund at all. None. I mean, zero. I'm like, crap, what am I going to do, when I'm old? So I went back again and I got a job as an accountant at my local community college, and I was there a couple of years until our house was ready and we packed up and moved. So
Mm. Why did you? How did you come about choosing Waynesboro, North Carolina?
my husband has a cousin in the Gatlinburg area, and we
Hmm.
come down once or twice a year to visit him. Love the area. Um, love the tax situation in Illinois. Everything was super expensive. Our real estate
Hmm.
taxes were incredibly high. Um, I think what we paid there, I would have to spend like, $20 million on a house here to pay those same real estate taxes back in Illinois.
Hmm.
And it was just really the affordability and the beauty here. So we looked in the Tennessee area, we crossed over to the North Carolina area, and we finally found some land after searching for a couple of years. So,
Mm.
and we built our house, and here we are.
Yes. So we were talking before we started about choosing one path, having
Mhm.
that clarity. So talk to our viewers about what you see as the obstacle about people finding that one path. What do you see, and how do you help them to really get focused on that one path?
I think what my problem was that there's a lot of promises made online about how much money you're going to make and how fast it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I like a lot of other people like instant gratification, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to work really long time to make $10. And I think if someone had said, give it 90 days or even 6 months, I think I could have stuck with that. And no one ever did. I always thought it was going to happen within a month or two, and then I gave
Mm-hmm.
up and I went and jumped to the next thing. So I think you have to realize, and I think the market has to tell people, give it 90 days, give it 6 months. Another lady I met a couple years ago who got me started with this other section I was doing online said she
Mm-hmm.
gave herself 3 years. She's like, if it didn't work in 3 years, I was going to quit. Well, fortunately for her, she went on and became a multimillionaire.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not looking for that for me. It'd be nice, but I thought that was a really long time to keep going at a product, and keep it going. So, but I think people have to realize it's going to take at least 90 days. Maybe you'll only
Mm-hmm.
make your first $5, but you set the wheels in motion, and I think it'll snowball after that. So,
Mm. I totally agree. I went from, and I know what you said about, I'm not gonna say former. You're always ADHD was always part of my routine, and it would be easy to chase that silver shiny object. But then when I went to longer term thinking, I really had a sense of peace with it. Doesn't have to happen this week, but progress has to be part of it, because if we're not seeing ourselves move forward, it can get frustrating when we're in the weeds and we're just not getting that progress. How do you like to see when you come to the end of the week? What do you do for Christine to help that, longer term perspective?
um, first of all, I want to comment on what we were just talking about. And I think, too, part of the problem is as we get older, we feel like we're running out of time and we want to see results sooner. Like, do I have a couple years to wait to make this work? So that was part of the problem, too, as I got older. Um, I almost got not more desperate, but more anxious about that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so back to your question, though, one of the things I've done probably for the last year is I have a spreadsheet with a bunch of tasks that I do on a daily basis, and I
Mm-hmm.
track them. I track what I do. I track things on all the different sites I'm on, what I'm posting, um, repurposing, things like that. So that I kind of can look at that and say, what have I done this week? And that helps. So I feel
Mm.
like I'm not just busy, but hopefully productive busy.
Yeah.
There's a difference there too. So,
I love that. We talked previously. I lived in a senior community, and
mm,
when I saw people doing things, whether it was creating, art at the art class, whatever it was, that would be something that would fill their heart up with, versus watching TV and just not doing that creative stuff. How do you feel when you are in that creative mode? How does that fill your heart? And kind of share with our viewers what that means to you when you're really getting that traction in what you're doing.
oh God, I feel so good because I'm a creative person and I do pottery. I like going on Midjourney and creating things. One of the things I did years ago was print on demand, and I love creating the designs. I'm not a graphic
Mhm.
artist, but if AI can do it for me, the better. Um, Even going on Chat GPT or Claude and putting in what I want an article about. I'm not creating it, but I'm giving them ideas and I do tweak it. So
Mhm.
I love the art of creating things. I've also crocheted. I always have to be doing something with my hands. So for me, that's an easy thing. It's a joyful thing, and I guess maybe that's my purpose in life is to be creative.
Oh, it's beautiful. I totally agree. The average person in America watches 4 hours of TV and scrolls like two and a half
Yeah.
hours of TikTok video, and it's consumption that they're doing. They're consuming other people's life versus creating
Right.
their life. So you mentioned AI, and you and I didn't grow up with all the modern technologies that are out there. And a lot of people in our age group aren't leaning into AI. So how does AI help you in the creative part of what you do?
Oh gosh, it depends what I'm doing. If I'm doing pottery or crocheting, it's not really helping me at all. If I want to learn how to do a stitch or some kind of technique, I'll go on YouTube and watch it. But in terms of like posting to my school community or the other platforms I'm on, I'll give it an idea and it'll help me write an article or a post. If I don't like it, I sometimes will play devil's advocate or argue with them and say I don't like
Hmm.
this or that doesn't sound like me. So it gets to know you. Um, so from that standpoint, I use it and I'm just amazed sometimes at what it comes up with. Um,
Hmm.
but it's more with the written word than um, that's what I found. It doesn't really help me with the hands-on type of stuff.
I my partner is has an AI agency, and this was about 3.5, 4 years ago, and he kept saying, "Pete, how are you using AI?" And I would say, "I don't have time for that." I was just discounting it, and then I had my AI moment when it created my first course. I about fell out of my chair. What it gave me a framework of, and then of course I put the video to it.
Mhm.
When did you have that AI moment? And would you explain what that meant to you at that time?
Oh gosh, I'm not really sure. I think being in several different school groups where they talk about AI and I
Hmm.
find ideas of what it can do. And truthfully, most of it, I have no clue what they're talking about. And I turn to just go, blah, 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 blah. It's like because I don't understand it. And I
Hmm.
don't want to take the time to understand it because I don't know what I can do with it. But I think recently I've been throwing things in AI about different business opportunities. And it'll critique them or it'll tell me that's not for me or it's for you, but we got to do this to it. And I
Hmm.
think it's helping me right now, the last few weeks, look at other opportunities, how to expand my business and kind of stay in the retirement niche, but look at other things instead of, having tunnel vision just on my own thoughts. So it's really opened my eyes to some things that I didn't think of before.
Mm, I love that. We talk about purpose, and as people get older, there's there's four things that need to happen, or they will not be around: connections, meaningful purpose, that personal growth, and that aliveness that comes from creating and doing whatever you're doing that
Mhm.
brings that feeling to life. So talk to I love the school community. We're both in it. Tell our viewers what that has helped you do, because there's a lot of social media out there and a lot of people don't know what school is. Would you explain like what that has done to help you in your community building?
The group we're in,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Eric's personally.
I think it opens your eyes to different things you never thought of again, kind of like AI. Um, you see people at a higher level than you, and you see what can be, and you're pushed. And no one likes to be pushed, but a lot of times it's good for you. And
Mm-hmm.
you'll learn a lot of new things, which I like to learn new things. And you see the possibilities, and like, okay, I shouldn't be satisfied just doing what I'm doing and making, this little amount. I know it's out there to make more.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't take a whole lot more bandwidth or brain power to do it. You just
Yes.
have to focus and work on it. So I think the leaders of that group are really good with pushing you in different directions and helping you. with your ideas, how to make it work. So,
That's awesome. So, we talk in our community about the journey of 1,000 miles starts with that first step.
mhm.
So, you have a person out there that's retired and they're bored. What's the first step they need to do to lean into Christine and your community? What's that look like?
Oh gosh, when I think of someone who'd be bored in retirement, I think of one of my sisters actually.
Hmm.
She lives out of state. I know she hates her job and wants to quit. She's not quite retirement age yet, but she has no hobbies. Um, and I just wonder what she's going to do when she retires all day.
Hmm.
Um, I think she's computer savvy, but I think a lot of people have a fear of doing something online,
Hmm.
and you'd have to find some way to convince them that, at least one, look at the opportunity. It's not that
Hmm.
hard. And in my group, I have a program where you can walk step by step how to do it.
Hmm.
And if not my community, there's other communities, there's YouTube, there's so much out there in the days of the internet. I think there's no excuse for not being able to learn something and figure something out and finding your purpose and having a reason to get up every day, especially as you're getting older and you're wondering what are
Yes.
you going to do for the next 10, 20 years. So hopefully my sister needs help. I'm there for her, but she's not ready yet. But I will drop in on her one of these days. But
Well, they
I think of
always
her
say
when I think
when
of
they
people being bored in retirement.
yes, and there is a lot to be said with when the student is ready, the
Hmm.
teacher appears. And so people have to be in that mindset of ready to
Right.
make that change and ready to go on that journey. So what would you say when you look at how Christine challenges herself? What do you do on a daily basis that challenge yourself to do what you're doing and to be a better person for your community?
Gosh, some days it's really hard. Some days
Hmm.
I'm like, why am I doing this? Last week was a hard week because I wasn't feeling good, and I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm not seeing results. Um, but then I tell myself, um, do you want to sit and do nothing and look back and say you've wasted the last year and a half doing that? You know, what did you do it for? So it kind of gives me purpose again to get off my butt and keep going.
Hmm.
Um, and also to do something that maybe no one else in my family has done. And wanted to prove to myself that I can do it. I kind of like a challenge. Maybe
Hmm.
not as much as I used to, but I still like to have a challenge.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of things in my life, I've done things that maybe no one else in my family has done, or I stuck with something. And, I've built two houses, and my family's like, oh, I would never build a house. It's too hard. I'm like, to me, it's just no big deal. You just do it, get through it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
So when I'm having a bad day or down, I just think about what I have accomplished, look at my chart and say, okay, you've done this for the last, 18 months or whatever, not
Hmm.
that long, but close to it. And it'll happen. It'll happen. The snowball is rolling down the hill. So that's what I tell myself to keep going, whether I'm fooling myself or not, but I think it's going to happen. So how can it
Yeah.
not?
Hey, look, the hope and the dreaming are so much a part of what's possible.
Mhm.
We always learn and we can do more than we think. Tell us about a time when you felt stuck and then you figured it out and you felt what you felt like when that moment was part of that journey.
Oh gosh. Not one thing's coming to mind right off the top of my head. There's been so many.
Hmm.
Um,
What about when you built the first house? Walk us through what that was like because it can be overwhelming when you think of all the decisions you have to make. But you did it, and then you actually did it again. So there had to be something like it's not like it was so difficult that you don't want to do it again, but you did it again. So
yeah.
tell us what that mindset was like when you were working through the that that whole process of building a house?
After the first time, I told myself I'm never building again. If I do, I'm going to have enough money so I don't ever have to worry about it. That didn't
Yeah.
happen either. The first time we built it was like, over 30 years ago. We were young. Um, I was only working part time. My kids were small. But a friend of my husband's, we were looking to buy another house. And my husband's friend said, oh, he was a builder. He's like, oh, you can just build a house. It's easy, blah, blah, blah. Just do this. So we found some land in our town. We ended up being the general contractor. And it took us, I forgot how long, maybe almost a year, maybe a little more than a year and a half. And we thought that was forever. Well, then recently, when we built this house, we found the land after looking several years, and it took almost 2 years to the date for us to actually move in.
Mm-hmm.
Many reasons. I think the contractor wasn't the greatest. The hurricane came in through North Carolina, and I think that set back a lot of contractors. And our lot wasn't damaged, but I think it just did something to everything else in this whole community. Just everything was so slow and took forever, and maybe my expectations were too high coming from Chicago to a small town,
Mm-hmm.
and but it was very frustrating. But what are you gonna do? You can't just give up and walk away. You just have to keep going, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Make phone calls, sit and wait, and then finally the day came and we're here. And it was like it almost wasn't even enjoyable or super happy the day we came here and slept on the floor overnight waiting for our builders to come the next day. It was like, oh, now what's next? And then we still had problems after we moved in. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I think we did it twice where like no one else in my family did that. They think we're
Mm-hmm.
stupid, but we're also doing something that we wanted to do, and we're in a town where we wanted to be at, and we love it here. So I mean, the payoff was there. It was
Mm-hmm.
just a hard way to get there.
Yeah.
I'm
What
not sure
is
if it
it?
answered your question or not, but that's
No,
what
it
I feel.
did. It did. And, there's so much that if we try, we can succeed at it versus not stepping into something because we think it's going to be too hard. If
Yeah.
you had to give some advice to a 20-year-old Christine, what would that advice be, knowing what you know today?
Oh my goodness. One thing I've thought of lately is growing up, my dad always say, it's who you know. And he always thought, people knew people. But we were never taught to network or to
Mm-hmm.
hang out with other people or to hang out with successful people. And I think something I wish I knew then was to really go out and talk with people and network. I,
Mm-hmm.
40, 50 years ago, I never knew what that meant to network with people. Um, I think that's really important now. The bigger your base is, you can just call on people for help or advice, or even being around more successful people. Maybe you could glean off a few tips here and there to help you on your journey. Another thing I think I would think would be save money.
Mm-hmm.
I was a saver to a point, but I also then ended up spending it or never thought. I always thought I had enough time to save for retirement.
Mm-hmm.
When we were in our 30s and 40s, we didn't have any money to save. We're like, oh yeah, that day will come, that'll day will come. And then one day I was getting older. I'm like, oh crap, we have no money. Um, so I think networking, saving, and just
Mm-hmm.
having more of a plan. Never really had a plan. You just kind of get up every day and wing it. You raise your kids, you go to work, and yeah, what's the plan for? I don't know. Just live another day. So
Mm-hmm.
I think those are some things I would go back and do different.
Yeah, that's good advice. You mentioned, it's what your dad said is who you know. I used to think this is until years ago that it was kind of like a, a negative thing. It's who you know, and
Yeah.
it really is not. It's our relationship. If we lean into building relationships, you can get to know people, but you have to make that intention. You have to go out there and build those relationships. And when you do that, it is the circle, the group of people that you know that can help, because most people want to help, but if you don't know the kind of people to call on, you're not going to get that support and help.
Yeah, he
What
said
would
it
you
kind of
say?
like you said from a negative viewpoint, like it was
Yeah,
a bad thing. Like only
yeah,
the rich people knew this one, and if you know someone, you get what you want, and
yep,
not from the positive way that it can help you out and get things in a good way. So
yeah.
he was a
That
very
is
negative man. So
well. I think back then it was easy to come away with that, but I think now with the internet, you can know people halfway around the world. I mean,
yeah,
the world's a bigger place, so the whole idea of knowing more people is is a lot easier than it was way back when
yeah,
it was a smaller world. We go through challenging times, and I had a gentleman that he was on my podcast this a couple years ago, and we didn't know how it happened, but he grew up in a concentration camp in Russia at
wow,
age 5. So it wasn't your typical preschool.
hmm
But what he said was it created a love of freedom and a mindset that he would never have had if he didn't grow up in that environment. Have you had a time in your life where at the time it didn't seem to be a very fun time, but Christine was able to grow and mature faster by going through that difficult time? Has there been anything in your life that you could share with us?
God, let me click back many years. Oh, nothing's really popping out. I'm sure if I had some more time to think about it, I
Mhm.
could, but nothing's
Yeah.
popping out, Pete. Sorry.
Okay, no problem.
But I
So
think
when
that's
you're
interesting
not,
what he said because you would think that 5-year-old would have came out,
yeah,
you know, hurt and sorry and abused and just, not thinking that at all. Where it's really unusual to have that mindset. I think that he appreciated freedom when he was, a captive almost. So,
yeah, and he had shared with me. He said, "You have a choice. You can be bitter, or you can be
mhm.
better." And he chose to be better. And now he went on to, I mean, he was a rock star in Russia, singer, and he's doing all kinds of things around the world. His book, which is right here, is the little book of big reasons to love America.
Cool.
So, and it was a great read of, how blessed we are and fortunate we are to have the freedoms to do whatever we want here in America. So, what would you say when you're not working on your business? What do you like to do that you could share with our community?
Um, One of the things I've done off and on the last, I don't know, 25 plus years is pottery.
Mm-hmm.
And when we moved to this new house, I had a shed, a 10 by 10 shed put on our land. And my
Mm-hmm.
husband is in the process now. We had electric put in. He's putting up the ceiling and the walls. And hopefully in a week or two, I'll get out there with my wheel and kiln and start making stuff. So that's what I like to do. I also joined a fitness center a couple months ago, so I'm trying to go 2 or 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
Even though as I'm getting older, it's slower to see results, but I'm going anyways because I need to get in better shape.
Mm-hmm.
And being out here in this beautiful area, we like to just drive around or go see a waterfall or hike some super easy trail because we're not that fit yet, and
Mm-hmm.
just get out and enjoy this. Which or even just sitting on my front porch. We have 3 wooded acres, and you can see the mountains and the trees, and I actually could just sit out there for hours and with my cup of coffee or
Mm-hmm.
something to drink and do nothing. But I do think of a lot of things that when I'm done being lazy, get up and come back to my desk and work on. So, um, and we want to travel, so we've got a trip in mind for next year, and that's what we work on. So,
That's awesome. I was always amazed. I do the YouTube thing and I see things of how they're creating things. And I love the pottery videos because you're working with your hands, you're creating something. So take us through, like when you start a project, a pot, what are you thinking of when you're putting something together? Or do you have a sketch? How do you create that pottery?
Well, there's two ways to go. One, you could do something on the wheel. Um, and I haven't been on the wheel actually in a couple years, but when I have done it, like when I was taking a class at my community college,
Hmm.
I tried to have something in mind, but I wasn't like good enough. I could never be a production potter and create the same thing over and over. I like one-off things because then I'm not locked into something. And plus, being the way I am, it's boring to me to create the same mug, 10, 20, 30 times.
Hmm.
So sometimes I have something in mind. Sometimes I kind of let whatever happens happens.
Yeah.
And that's the nature with clay. Or if I'm actually hand building something, I usually have something in mind. I have a lot of tools and textures. I'll try to use a texture and make, oh gosh, I don't know, an ornament or some kind of trinket dish or some kind of bowl with texture and shape it. So, um, like I said, sometimes I have something in mind. Sometimes it's just a matter of playing with the clay and letting the clay tell me what I'm going to make that day. So, same
That's
thing with
so
the glazing when that comes to that. Like, you have so many glazes and combinations, and you see things online, and I bookmark, probably 1,000 different pages, and I'm like, okay, just make something. It doesn't really
yeah.
matter. Just make something. So,
Yeah. It is so refreshing to see our creativity
mhm.
come to life and that end product that you had an idea and then you see it finished.
Yeah, it is exciting when it actually works out.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Hey, and sometimes they don't, sometimes they do.
Yeah.
I discovered some things later in life, journaling and meditation. And I
Mhm.
never did it when I was pre 64, but I had a stroke, which changed. I stopped playing golf, didn't play golf, and I didn't run anymore. So I had to come up with some other things. And writing and journaling and meditating were the three things I do a lot of now. Is there something that you've discovered later in life that you didn't do when you were younger, but all of a sudden, for whatever reason, you stumbled into it and you found a love for it?
Not really. I know I've heard good things about journaling. I think the last time I attempted it, after 2 days I give up. It's kind of like tracking my food to, for when I want to lose weight. After two
Yeah,
days, I just forget about it.
yeah.
So that's can't really say there's anything I like. It's just I'd rather go
Hmm.
back and pick up crocheting again, or like I went so many years without doing pottery. I had all this stuff in my basement. I just didn't do it, and then I picked it up again
Hmm.
a couple years ago. So maybe pottery, or I still
Hmm.
have a bin of yarn under my bed that I'm gonna crochet scarves or blankets for one day and give them away.
Yeah.
So um, that to me is something that's always there. I can always do no matter how old I am. So that's kind of
Hmm.
neat.
Yeah, you mentioned about having that cup of coffee on the porch and just being out there with nature. So, do you do that every single day? Is that a
Yes.
daily routine of really being outside? And I love it because a person shared with me a bird app, and I'll identify birds. And I
Merlin?
was actually seeing it. It's called Merlin, but
Yeah, I
now
got
I
that.
can see how they talk, goes back and forth, and it's the most amazing thing. I don't know what they're saying, but they're
Yep.
communicating. But to see how many birds are actually out there, it's actually amazing. One morning, it was like 18 different types of birds.
Wow.
They're out there and they're making the sound. So I do love going out there, and that's when I do my journaling. I'll just go out there and just not be thinking anything in general,
Hmm.
but then I get to writing and thinking with the birds chirping and with the outdoors. And I can only imagine in Western North Carolina because I lived in Asheville for 10 years. So I know that area very well. There's some beautiful, beautiful mountains. So when you do that, are you going out there to enjoy the coffee or to have some thinking time for Christine? Or what's that like?
Um, all of the above. Like this
Hmm.
morning, I was out there and there was a deer out there. We don't get a lot of deer, but yes, last
Hmm.
night there was a deer, and I think the same one came by this morning, and my husband and I were just watching. We think it's a her, and she spent a lot of time in our yard. Sometimes they just run off. I like listening to the birds. I found out about the Merlin app a couple months ago when we were out driving along the parkway, and we stopped at an overlook, and there was a couple men off to the side with ladders and cameras, and I walked over there, and before I could even ask him what they were doing, he told me that he was looking for birds, and he told me about the Merlin app. So now I'm
Uh-huh.
obsessed with that app. I turn it on every night, and so yeah, sometimes I'll just sit there and just. Usually every morning it's been really foggy here, so
Hmm.
I'll just sit out there and watch the fog change, and I'll hear the birds, and just it's just a way to start my day thinking like, okay, what am I going to do
Yeah.
today, and just kind of get in the mode and relax, and just it's really
Yeah.
peaceful out here. So when it's quiet, I don't have any neighbors. So and
That's a
then at
beautiful
night too, I
thing.
like to sit out there again, just kind of
Yeah.
wind down the night instead of sitting in front of the TV. So
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. I want to be respectful of your time. So I have one more question after this, but tell our viewers how they can get a hold of Christine. Because I'm thinking of that person that's, wondering what to do. They need to have that direction and having those ideas of purpose. Tell our viewers how can they get a hold of you.
okay, my number one place is on the school community, and it's the Retirement Pocket Cash Club.
Hmm.
I don't know if there's a way we could put a link in this later on,
Yes, we'll put
or
it
listen
in
to
the
that.
show notes. Yeah, we'll put to
Um,
go to the show notes and you can
okay.
get to Christine's
I'm
community.
also on YouTube, and my handle is at Retirement Pocket Cash Club. I think that's
Okay.
correct. And I think the same thing on Facebook. I try to keep all the names the same, so
Hmm.
I'm easy to find. So,
Awesome.
yeah,
Well, we'll make
leave a
sure we'll
comment,
put
ask a
that.
question. I'm happy to help you out with anything you need.
Absolutely. And we'll put everything in the show notes. So if you are driving and you heard Christine talk, just go in the show notes and you'll be able to find it. All right. So tell what would be the one thing that you would want our viewers to take home from our time on this podcast?
Oh man. Um, if you're retired and you need some extra money, don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to be online. Everyone else is online. You can do it.
Hmm.
Find someone to guide you, whether it's me or someone else. Um, and just have that purpose like we talked about. Um, get together with people. It'll help you live longer, and enjoy yourself. You can enjoy yourself and make some money at the same time. So
Hmm.
I think that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, Christine, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. We really appreciate you. From Waynesboro, is it Waynesville?
Waynesville.
Waynesville. Yeah,
Waynesville.
I have a Waynesboro down in Virginia, and I get them mixed up. Waynesboro and Waynesville. I
Yeah.
get them mixed up at times. But thank you so much for being a
Thank
guest
you for having
on
me.
our podcast this morning.